Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Lampworking 101.94. So I'm kind of doing this at the last second. This is a really beautiful, simple way to make a nice, just bouquet of flowers all around your bead. And what I love about this bead is that the cane that I'm using for the petals is a multicolored cane, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that right now. So without further ado, I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you next time in the dungeon. Okay, we're going to start out with the multicolor transparent cane. And this is a really beautiful cane. It just gives you a nice variety of color for your petals. And I'm going to start out by using two of them. I just want to stick each one of these together. So I end up with all four colors stacked together. So I'm going to heat the first two colors up. I do about an inch and a half of color. And I just get them hot enough to stick together. And then I'll cast off the end of each one right in the center, so that will give me a nice place to punty up later on. So I have a, what do I have here? I have a topaz, a dark violet, a dark purple, and the electric yellow, which I really like. And so you can use 3 colors, you can use 2 colors. It's just a really nice way to get a lot of color on those petals. So I just end up by slowly heating each cane on top of itself. And really you want to do what's comfortable for you. It's always good to kind of push yourself, but if you feel like this might be too much for you, then go for a smaller amount. So I'm going to end up punching up one end and slowly start to heat all of that down into a bit of a wad, so it's easier for me to take the other end off and I don't have this glass, flopping around on me. So I'm going to, kind of heat everything up and push it down, and then take the other side off when things are nice and controllable for me. And I'll end up shaping this up into my 1-inch marble mold. And it's funny that I use this tool so often, but I almost never use it when I make marbles. So, it's one of those things. Well, I don't make marbles very often. When I do make marbles, I use it, but I use it a lot more for, making cane. It's just a great tool. But if you don't have it, then just, heat everything up into a bundle, roll it out until you get a nice round shape, and then we're going to punty up on the other side. I have a slightly larger mandrel that I'm using on the other side. Either way, I'm just heating everything up, and I really like how the transparents kind of remain on the stiff side when you heat it up, so it's easier to gently pull things out after it's really hot into a nice thick cane, and that's what we're looking for here. The multicolor cane, this really was fun. Okay, so for my base color, I have a sparkle in my bead, and I'm gonna use some mica shavings. And I got this, I don't even know where I got this piece of mica, but you can find it in any rock or gem store. Probably find it online on Amazon or something. But I just am going to shave a little bit off onto my marvering table, and there is a shot of the cane. You don't really see the colors too well in there, but I wanted to share it anyway before we get started. All right, so we are going to go ahead and start this bead off with a base color of, this is kind of like a streaky sky blue. I have it written down in the description, but I am going to start out by just getting the color on my mandrel. And I'm looking for, like, I don't know, maybe about an inch or so, like always, of glass. I want this to be a nice big focal bead. But I want this, I always end up making the center part too thick. So you really want to start out with this core nice and thin. And of course, it doesn't look perfect, but anytime you're not laying down your glass perfectly, you never really have to worry, because once you get used to rolling it out and rounding it out in this fashion, it really, you know, you can lay down, your glass can be so messy, but you can still make it look beautiful by heating and a bit of rolling. So I'm just gonna shape this glass up, and I stretch it out a little bit more on the mandrel. I probably end up with about 1.5 inches of glass here. And I'm just going to shape up and taper the edges just a little bit. And then we're gonna add some transparent color on top. I thought that this whole bouquet of flowers would look really beautiful if it kind of looked like maybe it was underwater. So I thought blue would be a great background. And this is an intense blue that I rarely use, but I thought would come in perfectly for this. And aside of that one, I am just going to add some of the dark aqua blue, and I just take both of them down into a nice long spiral. And I'll pull the end off a little bit here and maybe add a little bit to the top. All right. So after a bit of heating, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll it out a little bit, get it into a nice shape, and then I will very slowly go into the mica flakes. I put them in a line like that because I want to roll it up kind of like a spiral. I didn't want to lay it all out and coat the whole bead with it. However, that would look really cool, but in this case, I just wanted to roll it on as a line. And I'll just start at one end and work my way to the other end, just getting enough to make a sparkle in the background. I love sparkly beads. Okay, so on top of this, we are going to add a whole coating of clear. And you want to have this clear coat as thin as possible. I'm using a really kind of large rod of clear here, but as we get closer and closer, you see I'm trying to lay it down quickly so I have a thinner coat. And if you can get a thinner coat than this, even better. All right, now a whole bunch of heating and shaping. As always, I want to make sure the first thing I do is to get that clear to go around towards the mandrel part of the bead. And then the rest is just heating and shaping and getting the right kind of, I'm looking for a kind of a slightly bicone shaped bead here. And just this in itself is really pretty too, I thought. So here this is with the mica underneath. I just love the way it sparkles. Okay, so we're gonna start this whole flower routine here. And what I do for a really simple flower is just get 3 small dots from a white stringer as a base color and add them in little triangles that are really close together in 3 sides or on 3 sides of the bead. And once I have that done, I'll go ahead and turn the bead around and add dots to the other side. And you can do these kind of wherever you want to. I just want to do them in this pattern because I don't know, I'm a pattern oriented person. So you can do this however many flowers you want, but the idea is to get a nice layered effect. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my knife and I'm just going to individually flatten each one of these flowers so they have a nice low profile. Because on top of those, I want to add the cane. So I just very, very slowly taking my time, heating and flattening each individual flower there. And now I have the multicolor cane, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to add the dots right on top of the white petals. There's any time that you do this, depending on how much you are covering the white glass underneath will depend on how much it will cover that white dot. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but if you can cover almost the whole white dot, that's what you want to do. So once I have everything with those dots on there, I am going to repeat the same thing I did. I'm going to go through each single flower and just start to pat it down with a knife. If I feel like the bead is getting too cool, then I will just give it an overall heat real quick, and then go back to flattening down each flower. And once I get them flattened enough with the knife, I can go ahead and very, very carefully flatten each one on my little marver pad. Because every time you go to heat these up, they kind of like warm up, and they puff up, so you have to continue to flatten them down. And once you get to this point, I'm gonna heat each flower up individually and push a red stringer right into the center of each one. And you don't want to pull, you want to push in the center part. And then to release that little bit, sometimes I'll bring it up to my face and blow a little bit of air onto that point, and it gets cooler, faster, and easier to break off. And then on top of that, we are going to give the whole thing another coating of clear. Make sure that this under layer, that your coating is nice and cool as you add the hot glass on top, because you don't want to smear any of these patterns. All right, a big coating of clear there, and immediately I'm going to go ahead and get that clear to go underneath and close to the bead hole. I want to make sure that all those flowers are covered up on both edges as well. And then heating the whole thing up and getting it ready for a whole nother layer of flowers. The great thing about this is that you can really add flowers wherever you want. Little, big, you just want a great big variety. So on this second or the last layer here, I'm going to add some more flowers right in between all the other flowers. I don't really want to think about what's happening underneath as I place these down, because I want some of the petals to cover over some of those flowers underneath, and that's what's going to give you that really nice layered effect. And then I'll go through this whole process one more time of gently flattening and then adding the dots and then plunging the red cane in there. It's just so much fun to play around with these. The amount of colors that you can use for this cane are just endless. And if I was thinking about this ahead of time, I probably would have done several different colored flowers, because that would have looked cool too. But in the long run, I think this looks so cool with this blue background. All right, so I'm just going back in, heating things up. I'm trying not to get those, the flowers to touch too much to each other, because when you do this plunge well, not plunge and twist, but when you plunge in the stringer, that kind of brings all the petals together into the center. A nice deep heat is what I do before I plunge the glass in there. And the rod will go very deep into the glass and give you a little tiny red blob on the back side of each flower. If you don't want that, then just don't push so hard. But I tend to really push these in pretty deep. All right, time for our last layer of clear. And every time I'm going to add clear like this, when I do the swiping method, what's going to happen is it'll trap a nice air bubble inside each one of those flowers. So I thought, God, it looks like even more like it's underwater. So it all worked out for the best here. If you don't want the bubbles, try to add clear dots right on top of those flowers. You might get a smaller bubble. All right, well, now that we have all of our clear glass on this bead, all we have to do is go ahead and finish heating and shaping everything up and rounding it out. So as always, I like to do my edges first and then work my way into the center, and it just kind of really helps to make things a little faster, even though things are never really this fast in glass working. In fact, I always like to share every now and then a clip like this one of me working in real time. So yes, I work just as fast or as slow as you guys do. I wish I was a speed flame worker, but I'm not. So this bead probably took about an hour to make, and it was a lot of fun. It was so satisfying, and I loved every part of it. And I hope you guys try this out. If you haven't done flowers already, this is a great platform to kind of jump off of. And on that note, I'll let you guys finish watching me round this out. And all right, and that's it. Okay, you guys, well, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this one, and we'll see you next time in the dungeon.